Drawing people. More often than anything else, I have students requesting help with drawing people. For this project, I want to encourage you to think about how you can arrange the people within your space so that maybe you don't actually have to draw an entire person. In this drawing example, I have a person. He's in the foreground so far that you can't even see the bottom of him. All we see is a shoulder and the back of his head and a hand. You don't even have to put the hand in yours. But if he was way off into the distance instead of in the foreground right here, we would see a lot more of his body. So make your life a little bit easier and think about how you can cover up the parts of the person that you don't necessarily want to draw. If you are drawing a whole body of a person, this is how I start. I start off with the basic skeleton of my person, or basically like a stick person. The torso of my human, I usually make a triangle. That's just me. And then I know where the head goes up above. You can see that I'm holding back pretty far on my pencil so that I'm pressing really nice and lightly. When you are drawing the arms and legs, if you're not quite sure exactly where they should bend and what they should look like, I want to encourage you to try to take a picture of someone you know or ask them to even just stand in that position to help you out with being able to see which way the arms bend and the legs bend. There's nothing wrong with asking somebody, hey, can you stand there and bend your elbow like this so I can see how far down it goes? Help each other out. Once you've got your stick person in there, then I'm going to go in and I'm going to fill him in, make him look a little bit more three-dimensional. So the arms, we need to make them like cylinders. So now I'm going to draw lines around my stick figure lines. For now, I'm just going to leave the hands as blobs. I'll go back in and make those a little more realistic later. This is when I want to start thinking about clothing too. What is my person going to be wearing? A neck is just two lines that connect the head with the shoulders. The more you practice drawing this way, the easier it's going to get, and the more it's going to make sense. So down here I've got legs that bend at knees. There's the basic outline of my person. Now I'm going to go into faces a little bit more in a little while. Whatever position your person is in, however they are moving, sitting, bending, dancing, you want to think about which way the legs bend, and which way the arms bend, so that you can figure out how to make them look a little bit more 3D. Once you have the basic skeleton of your person in there, you can start to build their body around it. skeleton, and then build it up to make it look more 3D. If you draw your stick person in there really lightly, then it's much easier to go back and erase the part that you don't actually need. Now, getting into more detail. Once you've got your skeleton in there, if you've had a chance to go in and erase the lines on the inside that you don't actually need, then you're probably going to want it to get into more details like hands and faces and things like that. So let's talk about faces. The most common mistake that I see students making when they draw a face is to put the eyes up here. Because you know that a person's eyes are at the top of their face. People tend to draw the eyes up at the top of the head too, which is incorrect. If you look at any person that you see around you right now or a picture of a person, you will notice that a person's eyes are actually much closer to the middle of their head. I'll just put the basic ovals of the eyes in there. The top of the head is where the hair goes. You need to have plenty of room for hair up there. About halfway down between where the eyes are and where the bottom of the chin is, that's about where the nose ends up. And about halfway between where the nose ends and where the chin is, that's about where the lips are. Lots of halves. When I am drawing a person's face, I usually only draw the bottom part of the person's nose, because that's where you're going to see the most shadows and creases and lines. The two sides of the nose are usually not actually a line at all, but they're a shadow. And so I'll use the colored pencil to add the lines on either side of the nose. The lips, I start with the line that separates the top from the bottom lip. I add a curve right here for the top lip that goes down to the corners. And then the bottom lip is a nice big curve. Make that one real dark, because usually there's a shadow underneath the bottom of a person's lip. Eyes. If you have ever started drawing an eye, and then it was really good, and you went to start drawing the other eye, and it looked terrible, this is what I do to avoid that. I make both eyes at the same time. So there's the top curve of the eye, and then I'm going to add the bottom curve of the eye. There are tear ducts in here on the inside of your eyes, so usually I make those pointed out a little bit more. A person has an eyelid on top, so I'm going to draw that down below the top line of the eye. And then the iris. And again, I go back and forth from this one to this one, this one to this one, working on both at the same time. A person's pupil is in the middle of their iris. When you're drawing an eye, it's important that you remember that there's a top eyelid happening and that you should never be able to see all the way around a person's iris. If you can see white up above it and down below it, then that's not going to look quite right. You should always see white either above it or below it, not both. If you make it too big and it touches the bottom and the top, that's also not quite natural. You almost always will see an eye with the iris, the colored part of the eye, touching either the top or the bottom of the eyelid, and not both. Try it out. Go look at people. See if you notice that too. So, eyes. Don't forget the eyebrows. Everybody has different shaped eyebrows. And now we have plenty of room up here for hair. Hair is one of those things that can make your person look a little more feminine or a little bit more masculine. I usually put a triangle in here if I'm going to add bangs to my person. And then the hair will actually be up above, because your hair goes up above your skull. You've got a lot more hair showing than you probably think. Don't forget about those ears. So I'm starting with just some straight lines that are not very dark, that go down from the crown of the head. So this is kind of where the hair is starting, and it curves down and around, down and around. Not straight down, but as a curve. Like it's curving over the top of the skull, which is round. Everybody has a different shaped chin. But often you'll see a line right there. When you are drawing a person's hair, to make them look a little more masculine, let's make some boy hair. So remember, the eyes go in the middle, the nose goes about halfway down from there, and the mouth about halfway down from there. Let's say I wanted to make this person actually turn a different direction. Let's talk about angles. This is what we would call 3/4 view. So now I'm going to make this person's nose all the way to the side like this. That means you're going to see a whole lot of one eye, and the other eye is going to look a little shorter. You're going to see one side of the nose more than the other side of the nose. But the mouth I would do about the same. That U shape going down to the corners. And a darker line for the bottom lip. Don't forget the eyebrows. Now, to make someone have slightly more masculine hair, don't forget about the sideburns right here next to the ears. And then usually there's going to be a big curve here. And from there, the hair grows up and out. Some people have hair that is parted down the middle. And it might flop over this way. And it's going to be shorter lines. These were big, long curving lines. These are shorter curving lines. Short curving lines, short curving lines. Let's give him a cowlick. You might see a little bit of it poking out around the ear. And ears are a whole nother thing. So for the side of the face, I put curves from the top of the head to the eye, from the eye to about where the lips are, and then another curve for this chin right here. So hopefully that helps with some hair and some faces.